It's Friday, December 27th, 2019, and this is episode 10 of Film Cult Podcast. I am your host, Chris, and this week, as in every week, we are reviewing 3 different movies, regardless of genre, regardless of release date, regardless of any correlation. This week, just 3 different films. We're going to do a quick little review of each of them, have a little discussion on them, and that's about that. So, to start off, before we go into the reviews, I just wanted to mention that obviously this is the first podcast after the Christmas holiday. So, Christmas was on Wednesday. So, I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas, had got everything they wanted on their wish list, or gave gifts to their family and friends, and all that good stuff. The holiday season is officially past for us, and now we are here in the last episode before the new year, before 2020. So that's really cool that we were able to get 10 episodes out this year for the new year. I'm not sure they were all successful or not, but I know I had some recording problems on some of these past episodes I was going through, and I noticed that the audio was very low, and some of them, my talking and all the ums and uhs really affected me. And so I'm trying to articulate these reviews from now on to not have so many pauses and filler words and like that, what I just did there, to have all this nonsense. I'm trying to articulate these reviews better and make a more coherent podcast. So bear with me with all of that nonsense. But as I was saying, we are approaching the new year. We are approaching 2020, and I will have 10 podcasts up on the channel, and currently sitting at 6 subscribers. So it's been a very slow start, but it's been a start at least, and I want to branch out and do not just the podcast. I got an idea earlier this week for a video essay that I'm going to edit hopefully before the new year, but maybe a little bit after, which is going to be on a very successful movie and a very successful TV show and how they correlate. I don't want to say anything more to spoil it, but it should be a very good video essay. I was watching the movie earlier this week. I didn't want to spoil it, but I was watching Silence of the Lambs, and I was thinking of another show that is similar, and I thought, wow, I should make a video essay on this. So, if that sounds interesting to you, please be on the lookout for a new video that is not the podcast. So I assume I will be uploading it on a day that isn't Friday, but maybe on a Friday, to release that. So, without further ado, we have 3 movies to review and 30 minutes to do it, so let's get right into it. The first film that I am reviewing today is the 1998 American crime drama film, American History X, which was directed by Tony Kaye and written by David McKenna. It stars Edward Norton and Edward Furlong and features Fairuza Balk, Stacy Keach, Elliot Gould, Avery Brooks, Ethan Suplee, and Beverly D'Angelo. A lot of supporting roles that I do not know off the top of my head, but those are all supporting roles in this film. Like I said, it came out in 1998, and it tells the story of 2 brothers from Venice, Los Angeles, who become involved in a white supremacy or neo-Nazi movement. And the older brother, who's played by Edward Norton, ends up killing a black man and is sentenced to prison, obviously. And while in prison, he has a change of heart. He changes his neo-Nazi beliefs, and when he comes back, basically the plot of this movie is him trying to prevent his brother from going down the same dark road that he went to with all this hate and white supremacy. And it's a very good movie. This is probably the second or third time I've watched it in my entire life, but it still resonated with me, and I still thought it was very good. And so it does get my recommendation right off the bat there. But to just go into it a little bit, I thought that, we're dealing with a very dark subject matter here with neo-Nazis and a lot of hatred and racism, obviously. And so I think the film handles that very well. I think the the violence in it is needed to tell the story, and it's cool to see the the late 90s like environment of LA. It's something I'm totally not familiar with being here on the East Coast, and to see um, what the neo-Nazi movement is like in the late 90s as compared to what it is today, and it's shockingly similar almost. I feel like these hate groups have never truly gone away, and to kind of explore one of that in a very popular, I know it was very popular at the time when this came out, and Edward Norton was not anything short of a movie star when this movie premiered. This is after Fight Club? Before Fight Club? Actually, let me look that up real quick. I know Fight Club was in the late 90s. Fight Club came out in 99, so this is literally the year before. I know that propelled him into stardom, basically. But he was established before them, too. What am I saying? So, but I digress. American History X is a very good film. There's a lot to unpack in this movie. I don't want to spoil any of it. What else can I say? Yeah, it's a good movie. Tells a really good story. I think the ending is something that you wouldn't necessarily predict. I know the ending was changed based on Edward Norton's preference. There was an original ending, and I'm spoiling some of it, so if you want to see the movie, I would skip to the next review. But the original ending was of Derek standing in front of the mirror, shaving his head after Danny, who was shot at the very end of the movie. That's the spoiler. And that was to kind of emphasize the fact that violence is an endless cycle, and the plot kind of would join together in that sense. But Edward Norton did not want that, and they ended up scrapping that. So that is not the ending of the film that you see today. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I kind of not prefer that ending, obviously, but I feel like that would make more sense of the plot than what we do have. But they did not go with that, so that is my review, more or less. I know it was a little light, but that is my review of American History X. It is a good movie. I do recommend it, and that is that. So on to our second review now. We are shifting ahead to a current release, something that came out in 2019. My third and final film also came out in 2019. I try not to do too much of the same release year or too much current stuff because I want to just be all over. But I got American History X in there, which is a late 90s movie. And now we are on to Marriage Story, which is a 2019 film, which is a drama comedy film directed by Noah Baumbach. It stars Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, and Ray Liotta's in this movie, Merritt Weaver, and Wallace Shawn. And simply put, it is about a couple, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, who go through a divorce. And something about this film that I just wanted to say, it's probably a movie that I wouldn't necessarily watch based on, what it's about in the trailer. Maybe not something that I'm particularly interested in, but it ended up being a very good movie. And again, another recommendation from me. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson play really well off of each other. Obviously, this is going through a tough time in their marriage as they're splitting, and we just go in depth on their lives, both of their lives, and how they managed the divorce. And Ray Liotta has a great part in this as Adam Driver's lawyer, and just one scene that pops out in my head is when Adam Driver initially goes to meet Ray Liotta, and they're going over all the logistics of the divorce and how much money that she'll get out in the settlement and this and that, and how much his cut is as a lawyer, and yada yada yada, all this legalities and logistics and stuff. and you could just like kind of see the emotion on Adam Driver's face, and it's just like this moment of where his life has just been turned upside down completely by this divorce. He was not expecting this at all, and there's even a funny scene in the beginning where Scarlett Johansson has to basically coerce her sister to serve the divorce papers to Adam Driver's character, and which is a very funny moment. I know she seemed very familiar to me. I know she's in a very popular series. I want to say maybe Handmaid's Tale is where she was from. I don't know that actress's name, but she plays Scarlett Johansson's sister. This might be something that I should have looked up previously, but I didn't. Merritt Carmen Weaver. She is known as Nurse Jackie. Okay. And she was in that miniseries on Netflix, Godless. That's where I know her from. She is not in Handmaid's Tale, like I just said. And she was in Unbelievable, which was a Netflix docu-series, or miniseries rather, that I also watched that was very good. Investigating a serial rapist. In that movie, that's where I recognize her from. She plays Scarlett Johansson's sister. I know this is very mixed match, me just kind of rambling off, but I digress. So, as I was saying, that scene where Ray Liotta is going over all the monies of this divorce and where everything will go, and this goes here and this gets paid here, and you can just see the emotion on Adam Driver's face that his life has just been completely given up to this divorce, and he will be paying all this money for his ex-wife now, and it kind of gets spiteful between the lawyers, and you just see this whole side of getting a divorce, which is something I know absolutely nothing about at 22 years old, but it was interesting to learn about, and it was interesting to see this side of the movie. And another just little supporting role that I thought was really, really good was, of course, they have Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson's characters have a child. So when it comes to divorce, obviously there is a matter of who takes custody and when the child gets to see which parent, as something that happens in divorces, and there is a really good part, a little part, but still very good part by the actress. I'm sorry, I'm just not prepared on what any name is. Martha Kelly, that is her name. She does a really good job of playing like a social worker that comes to the house of Adam Driver to see how he provides for his kid and to see if he's fit for partial custody. And that's a really good scene. I just feel like she was like the perfect casting for that part, to be like an awkward social worker. I know Martha Kelly from the AMC TV show Baskets, which I've seen parts of, or AMC, I said it's actually FX, but I digress. And so, all in all, I do recommend that film. One thing I also wanted to say is the score of that film is by Randy Newman, who, of course, wrote the score for many Pixar movies, Toy Story, Up, all these Pixar classics, basically. And I rarely talk about the scores and musical composition in movies, but his is just so standout and so recognizable that I was like, why do I feel like I'm about to cry? And it's like, oh, because Randy Newman's playing. His musical composition just definitely conveys the emotion in this very emotional movie at some point. So, very good casting and very good choice of a composer for the score. And that is my review of Marriage Story, which is on Netflix streaming right now. So if any of that sounded interesting to you, please take a listen. And that is my review. So on to the third and final review of today. We are seeing another 2019 release. This just came out on digital very recently. I wanted to see this movie in theaters, but I did not get to go see it. So, without further ado, my third and final film that I'm reviewing today is Ad Astra, which stars Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Ruth Negga, Liv Tyler, and Donald Sutherland. So this movie takes place in the near future. It's a very ambiguous time period, but the technology is all futuristic. We have colonized the moon and other planets and such. And Brad Pitt's main role here is a astronaut, and he is working around Saturn, I believe, or one of the distant planets, and there is a surge in space which threatens to destroy human life. Basically, it's this big mysterious power coming from space, and it keeps wiping out all of our communication systems and so on and so forth. And I read somewhere that on the release they were trying to do a very realistic depiction of space travel and to make the most scientifically accurate. And I feel like when it comes to science fiction movies, I feel like every single science fiction movie is trying to say that, and it's hard not to watch this movie and see the almost to this point now cliche beats, because Hollywood's done space a lot, and I see parts of Gravity in this, I see parts of Interstellar in this, and movies of that obviously of that genre because it's space. But this film artistically is very nice. I like the cinematography in this movie. It's very pretty. There's, like I said, it has all these cool futuristic technologies. So there's all these like very transparent like tablet things and like all, again, kind of almost cliche, but it's cool to see. And he's dragging all these key panels and stuff like that. So futuristic space travel. Brad Pitt is a very emotionally detached character, and he is given this mission where after this power surge, to discover that they have discovered, like the government has discovered, that his father, who left for Neptune 16 years earlier and was presumed dead on the spaceship, as communications have finally come through that suggests that he might be alive. So Tommy Lee Jones is playing Pitt's father in this role. So we see him initially through distress calls and all the evidence that they've got, and finally at the end we actually get to have Roy's character and who is Pitt, and his father's character Tommy Lee Jones finally meet at the very end of the movie. This movie has some good scenes in it. There's some new things in it. Like I was saying, there's a lot of the same type of space shots and story arcs like Interstellar and like Gravity and like those science fiction space movies. But there's some new stuff too. Near the middle of the film, I like how that the moon has been colonized, and it's kind of basically like a giant airport now. You take a rocket up to the moon, and then you can take a transfer space flight to Mars or Mercury or a different planet. So it's cool to see the commercialization of the moon, which is a unique concept, I guess. That's what we've seen before, Total Recall, and I've seen so many science fiction movies, and these are similar themes, but it works with them in new ways. And one thing that I wanted to mention was that there's a scene when they reach the moon, Brad Pitt and this team that is bringing him there, and they basically get on space rovers, and they are driving to a different ship, and there are space pirates on a different rover that come in and try to off Brad Pitt's team, and they do successfully do that. Pretty much only Brad Pitt survives, but it's cool to have like a almost chase scene on the moon. There was like a car chase, but it was like space rovers instead. So that was pretty unique. There's another scene later on in the film where there is animal testing being done in this particular spacecraft, and there is like a rabid baboon, I believe, and Brad Pitt has a lengthy fight scene with that baboon in space. So I know that sounds pretty interesting. And that was a particularly cool scene, something that I hadn't seen before. So, with that said, there's a monologue that Brad Pitt has throughout the film. He's just kind of narrating through. A lot of it takes place within his like therapy. He has to have these psychological analysis, like evaluations, quite frequently, so that he's makes sure that he's still fit for space travel, because these astronauts go through heavy psych evals and to make sure that they are still able to complete the mission, because it takes a heavy toll on them emotionally and physically. So we have a lot of these like inner monologue type things with Brad Pitt's character, and those kind of just felt like not pretentious to me, but just like a little too ambiguous, and the plot kind of gets too convoluted at points for me. So for this one, if you are a space genre fan, a science fiction fan, I would recommend it. It's by no means a bad movie. It's just not enough for me to give it a recommendation. I liked how it looked. I liked a lot of the ideas. I liked those few scenes that I just mentioned. But overall, I felt the film was just a little lacking for me. I did not talk about Tommy Lee Jones and his role in this film. I think he does a good job. We kind of perceive him as like a gone mad kind of guy, because he was on this Lima project, which was that trip to Neptune. Sorry, this plot is very convoluted, so to try to like summarize it and put out points is kind of difficult for me, because there's a lot going on. He's traveling to the moon, he's traveling to Mars, he's trying to make it through Saturn and like all these planets, so there's a lot going on. And I don't think that the film doesn't explain it well. I just maybe would need another watch to wrap my head around everything. But right now, standing, I wouldn't recommend this film. It just felt a little too long-winded for me. Although the people I did see it with enjoyed it more, I feel, just from getting their final thoughts when we finished watching it. But for me, this is my show. There is not a recommendation for Ad Astra, unless you are a big space fan. A science fiction fan in space, that kind of genre. So that concludes my 3 reviews for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a good listen out of this and got some good information. So this is, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, my final episode of the year. The new year is quickly approaching, and it will be the next decade in a matter of days, which is quite crazy if you actually think about it. We are moving on into a new decade, so just thinking about a futuristic movie like Ad Astra taking place in the near future, you want to know how far it is, but they never specify. I think that's like a Hollywood choice, because they used to pick dates, and like Back to the Future 2 takes place in 2015 and there's flying cars and everything, but obviously that is not reality. We've gone and past 2015 now, and yeah, I'm just rambling on and on now. But thank you so much for listening. I mentioned earlier as well that I'm working on a video essay. I just got the idea. I kind of want to outline it. Kind of want to get into a different format than just me doing this podcast on this channel. So I look forward to editing that and making a good video essay. I believe is the type of genre that I'm going for, to kind of compare this movie and this television show. I already mentioned that I had to do with Silence of the Lambs, but I just want to leave it at that. I ended up watching that whole entire trilogy, I guess you would say. Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and Red Dragon. The prequel, the sequel, and the original film. And I was initially just going to do those 3 films, but I didn't want to do another themed episode, so I decided to hold off on that and review American History X and Marriage Story and Ad Astra. So that is this episode, which I'm concluding right now. So, to everyone out there, I hope you have a happy and healthy new year, and I hope you celebrate with friends and family. This is such a good time. Probably one of my favorite times of the year. is just after Christmas and right before New Year's. I don't know why. I mean, coming from just graduating college, it was always a time where I was finally off from school and you can take a little break and really celebrate with your family and spend time with your family and friends. So I always thought it was just a really nice, relaxing time. So to get these movie reviews out now, to watch some good movies, I feel like all three of those films were, even though I only recommended two of them, I think all three of them were very solid films. And I look forward to reviewing some new films in the next decade. So to everyone else out there, anyone who's listening or just listening for the first time, once again, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful new year. And I will see you all in 2020. So just as a little footnote to this video, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I went to school for graphic design, and this is my chosen field. And one thing that I particularly enjoy doing is poster design. I've made a couple of posters, including for today's episode at Astra. That is a poster that I made. Hell or High Water is another poster that I just slipped into one of the episodes that was of my own creation. I like to make alternate posters based off the plot of the movie or whatever it may be. It's just something that I particularly enjoy. So if you are interested in seeing more of my work, you can head on to my website, which is mitchelldesign.online. I will put the link in the description of this video, as well as the link will be shown right now. So if you are interested in my work and what I do, please head on over to that website. So thank you very much for letting me do that little PSA. And as always, if you enjoyed this video or any of my previous videos, a comment, a like, a subscribe goes a very, very long way. I appreciate it immensely. And any type of feedback or suggestions about the show or anything of that nature, you could email me at my channel email, which is filmcultpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, filmcultpodcast@gmail.com. That is also on the screen at this moment. So follow that web address and you can email me anytime you like, and I will get back to you. And that is for certain. That's my guarantee. So once again, this is now officially the end of the video. I think I ended it twice now, but as I mentioned previously, have a happy and healthy new year, bringing in the new decade here of 2020. I will see you guys for my video essay, which should be coming out soon. I am going to begin editing that now, as well as recording that. And as far as this show goes, I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue right where I left off, so next Friday will be episode 11. There may be a change in that. I might take a little break over a week or two, but other than that, this is something I do plan on doing for a long period of time, even if I take a break or two for a couple weeks. Like I said, I have 8 subscribers, so I'm not really keeping the people waiting. So, to any of you out there who are still listening well after this video is over, thank you very much. Those are my ending notes, and have a happy and healthy 2020. Goodbye, guys.